Good morning, everyone. My name is Annika Lee, and I'm the Membership and Communications Coordinator at the Digital Technology Supercluster, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to our third Digital Demo Day. Before we get started, we want to respectfully acknowledge that in Canada, we live, work, and learn on the unceded, traditional, and ancestral land of Indigenous people. As myself and much of the Supercluster team are based in Vancouver, BC, we are gathered here virtually on the traditional ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And we encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are joining us from. Now I'd like to introduce our co-founder and COO, Bill Tam.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last day of June. For those of you who are also in Vancouver, it sure has been a hot one for the past probably week or so. So we're so pleased that you were able to join us today. So this Demo Day series is something, as Annika said, that we started about 3 months ago. It really is an opportunity to celebrate the successes of some of the projects and investments that we have made. And so we're glad to have a whole portfolio of members and projects that we can showcase. It is a monthly event, so we'll do the next one probably sometime in the summer, and we'll announce those dates shortly. But we now have a growing membership. We have a membership that's over 1,000 organizations across the country. And so these Demo Days is also an opportunity for other organizations to learn about projects and possibly get involved as customers, as partners, or possibly as future extensions of where these projects can lead. This month, we have the opportunity to feature 2 projects that I'm very excited about. We actually have looked very closely at the investments we've made around food and sustainability and agri-tech. And there's actually a growing portfolio of capabilities around that. So we're super excited that some of the digital innovations is moving into a domain that we all are going to be reliant on for many years to come. I should also mention that our portfolio now is more than $300 million worth of investments. That's more than 80 projects. And interestingly, as exemplified in today's discussion, more than half of the organizations that are participating are SMEs. And that's a big part of trying to drive competitive advantage for our growing base of innovation companies and startups and SMEs here in the country. Where we're going is to kind of talk about some of the most challenging issues across the food industry. And today we're pleased to highlight 2 SMEs in particular. So FoodX Technologies, and also Wisebox Solutions, who together are individually and also together are leading projects through our COVID-19 program. But I think the extensibility beyond the pandemic is going to be very apparent when you see their presentations today. So what I'd like to do is, before we get started, maybe just get a feel for who's in the audience. And I'm going to ask for Leanne's help from Inventa just to kind of put up a couple of survey questions. So Leanne, can you just throw up the first question, please? So the first question is, how are you involved with us at the Supercluster? And if you could just answer the question, then we'll kind of tally the results there. We need like the Jeopardy theme when this goes on. So, Dan, do we have the results? Okay, excellent. Looks like it's half and half. That's great. There's sort of new folks that are in the fray. So maybe we'll ask the next question is, can we put that up on the screen, please, Leanne? So what interested you in joining us today? And if you can answer that question, we'll get a sense as to what you're hoping to get out of this session. And the tallying is happening in the background. And the results are, okay. So most of this is, to learn a lot about what the projects have to offer and what they're doing. So with that, let me kind of do the setup to introduce the 2 projects. As I mentioned, they were developed as part of our COVID-19 program. And it was amazing, the outpouring of interest and just the spirit of all of the folks that are part of our innovation community to try to help with the pandemic response. Now, because there were numerous disruptions to the food supply chain as a result of the pandemic, it seemed very appropriate that we would have companies step up and say, how can they tackle and solve this challenge? It was as if overnight the world went through, a shift entirely from being in grocery stores to not being in grocery stores and having to do everything online. And all the things that were disrupting the supply chain and how we got grocery delivery right from source to the table were in question. So today we're going to showcase the two projects that have developed digital supply chain solutions to allow local businesses and producers to adapt to these challenging environments. And at the same time, I think they're able to invest in new capabilities that I think underwrite where this whole industry is headed. So first, you're gonna hear from Jason Hawkins, who's the Director of Business Development, and Bryan Imrie, Senior Program Manager at FoodX Technologies. They're the project lead for the Scaling Safe Food Delivery for Canadians project. And following Jason and Bryan, you'll hear from Colin Schmidt, who's a Senior Vice President, Product Development at Wisebox Solutions. And the project that they're leading is called DirectFood.store. Now, each of these presenters is going to provide roughly a 10-minute presentation that will demonstrate what they've actually been able to build. And we would invite you to ask questions on the chat. There'll be a Q&A period afterwards, and it'll be great if you guys have some questions and you want to learn more about what's happening. And following these presentations, we'll have a session where we'll allow the community, all of you that are participating, if you have some updates for others that are a part of this call, we'll just have a rapid fire session where we'll give you the mic. And if there's something new and interesting that's happening in your company or in your project that you want to share with the rest of the membership here, we would invite you to just raise your hand, and we'll go through as many updates as we possibly can. So with that, let's start with the first presentation on scaling safe food. And I think I'm going to hand it off to you, Jason, to start us off.
Thanks, Bill. I'm actually going to take it over here.
Okay, Bryan.
The introduction. No problem at all. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I am just going to put a presentation on and do the classic check to make sure that you guys are looking at a picture of one of our fulfillment centers. Great. Again, thank you for joining. I know my CEO, Peter, is with us, and my CFO, Adrian. So thank you both for coming along. I'm excited to take you guys through the FoodX solution. My name is Bryan, as Bill said. I'm a program manager who's working on both building and implementing our solutions for our various clients. Jason is our Director of Business Development, making sure that we partner with the right people moving forward and ensuring that we have a long runway for where we can go. Jason, do you want to take it from here?
Great, thanks so much, Bryan, and thanks, Bill and Supercluster, for inviting us to be part of this digital demo day. I think, Bryan, if you got the clicker, we can move to the next slide. And I'll just, for those of you that aren't familiar with FoodX Technologies, provide a brief overview of our story. We are really a culmination of over 20 years of experience in grocery, building software solutions for e-grocery. We're a subsidiary of Fresh Local Solutions, which went public on the Toronto Stock Exchange earlier this year. And we have about over 7,500 days of insights and iteration as a grocer. So we really are able to speak from a point of experience with our partners. If we go to the next slide there, Bryan. As Bill began to highlight, the challenges affecting grocery because of the COVID-19 pandemic really were tremendous. And at this point last year, we saw one of the worst pandemics and global health crises, disruptions in supply chains, and impacts to the economy that we've ever seen in living memory. So we're going to talk through some of those challenges today. If we go to the next slide. What we witnessed was an exponential growth in e-grocery sales, not only locally, but globally. So this was prevalent in our own business, where we saw people looking for ways to reduce their exposure to the virus, but also just get contactless delivery to their homes. We saw this as a catalyst of an existing trend. And what we've witnessed through our partnerships with other retailers globally is that this trend is going to stay. So retailers are forced to adapt. Now, one of the really difficult challenges that retailers have to face when they focus in on how do I, scale my safe food delivery is managing fresh food fulfillment. And at scale is the key here, because it is an incredibly difficult activity for them to manage without the right systems and technology to support them. So things like managing freshness of product that's perishable, product that maybe comes from a local bakery or a local farm, and being able to deliver quality and an experience while also reducing the food waste is a challenge that retailers are all faced with today. The other lens that we come at, both from a Spud, Blush Lane, Be Fresh, FoodX, and Fresh Local perspective across all of our companies, is one with food sustainability. It's been in our core values ever since we were started. We started by a group of hippies, as our CEO would call us, in Birkenstocks, and now we're here developing technology solutions to help retailers do what Spud does really well. So that's managing food waste, looking at a circular solution for how we can actually move from a single use model to a reuse model with packaging, and then looking at how we can actually incorporate local into the assortment. So enabling local producers, vendors to be able to scale their own businesses. Now, we're really proud to be able to say that we've partnered with a fantastic group of other businesses here in the consortium. You can see the logos below. And we came together under a mission of developing technology for scaling safe food delivery for Canadians. So this was sort of a pandemic-ready solution that we were able to work on over the past year, thanks to the Digital Supercluster. So what does that really mean for us? Well, FoodX, ultimately, we've been able to come together to develop an e-grocery management solution with our consortium partners to deliver more perfect orders profitably. And Bryan's going to get into what that actually means from a technology perspective. But from a grocery perspective, it's really about how they can deliver a superior customer experience, meaning fresh, fast, friendly, full, and one that can actually be profitable, which is, of course, important for retailers who operate on very thin margins to begin with. So let's dive into a little bit of what this looks like when we talk about the ecosystem of potential partnerships or arrangements with the EGMS. So we, as FoodX and our consortium partners, actually play around the retailer's existing systems and processes. So we allow them to own their own customer data, which is really important and something that they're often not able to do with outsourced solutions. They can often own their own e-commerce platform and ERP systems. They don't have to make that change themselves. There's a lot of risk mitigation there. And where we wrap around is with software and processes for the inbound, the outbound, and the routing processes, as well as delivery and understanding how we can connect with different hardware systems, such as robotics or voice picking technologies or conveyance. So we support them with an end-to-end solution to actually power a dedicated fulfillment activity. One of the outcomes that we've been really proud of over the last year is our partnership with a second largest grocer in the world, Carrefour Group, and our deployment in Carrefour Belgium earlier this year. This is in addition to local partnerships, not only with our own business and deployments with Spud.ca, but also working through a solution for Meridian Farm Market, which is a family-owned retailer focused on fresh local meat and produce in Vancouver. So we're very proud that the EGMS solution that's been developed, and thanks to the Supercluster, is one that is scalable and supporting retailers both small and large around the world.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. So I'm going to take you guys through a little more of that technology and explain first off, kind of how it all works. The FoodX EGMS, it's being constructed in a way that allows us to approach implementations in a modular manner, and that allows us to go to clients in a way that scales. As Jason mentioned, that's always been one item which is particularly important for grocers as they look to solve the problems that occur in our space. So this includes modules that cover receiving and put away, getting goods into the warehouse, to inventory management and picking for that perfect order for the customer. It's also a routing solution that ensures the most efficient use of delivery vehicles, and finally, reporting that ensures that we can continually improve on operations. we've been able to partner with Microsoft to create an Azure cloud-based solution that can be stood up in any market. And it's, again, scalable to meet the needs of grocers, both large and small. You heard Jason mention the second largest grocer in the world to a local customer in the Lower Mainland that we're able to help in both of those areas. And being in the cloud allows us to push new, innovative features to our clients in a continuous manner that means there's little to no downtime for them as well. And one portion of the EGMS in particular, which the Supercluster has helped us to develop, is something which we call Streamline. This operates in a warehouse environment. It helps the goods get into that fulfillment center that's being operated. The process around getting goods in is normally quite laborious. People have to be managed and directed by somebody in the know, someone who's usually just been there a long time. He would tell other employees what goods to put away, when and what order to put them away, and even where to put them away in that fulfillment center. Streamline is able to take all these people and have them work in an efficient way. And it easily answers the questions of what goes where, when, and it helps everybody make those decisions based on data rather than gut feel. So you can see here just some of the information that's presented to a user. It includes the temperature that goods need to be kept at, and therefore would impact their put away times. In the heat wave we're experiencing right now, you've got to get those frozen goods into that freezer even more rapidly. You've got to ensure that you keep your produce at the right temperature. You can also see here the amount of purchase orders you would be expecting versus how many arrive, which helps you smooth that demand forecast and labor in your fulfillment center, plus more. We've also worked very hard on ensuring that we deliver that perfect order as much as humanly possible. And to that end, we have what we call Smart Sub, a system that allows grocers to create and implement a list of acceptable substitutes for items, so that when a customer's first choice can't be located or maybe is out of stock, they're consistently delighted with that proffered alternative. This substitution action happens seamlessly for the grocer based on factors such as the availability of the item either within the warehouse or even among the orders, the expected replenishment date, and even time intraday. Even if the first choice goods are in the fulfillment center but not yet put away, remember Streamline, substitutions can be entered into that pick list even before a picker has their first touch of a container, making that picker more efficient by not even asking them to look for that first choice item, but rather directing them immediately to the substitute item. And finally, we have Solve. It's a last chance application to ensure that perfect order is what is sent to the customer. At this stage of the process, a customer's order may have been entirely picked, but it's still possible that the item wasn't found or wasn't found in sufficient quantities. Solve presents us with the opportunity to search other stock locations in the fulfillment center for that item, or maybe to search for a substitute if necessary. Solve also has another feature which allows operators to react to real-world conditions such as packing efficiency. And I'm just going to play a little video that shows how this happens. And what we're seeing here is a demonstration. There we go. Hopefully it's running now. A demonstration of how, even though FoodX has some very robust algorithms that pack reusable containers, sometimes cardboard boxes, we pack them as best we can full of our groceries. Sometimes you're just going to end up with a container that has one bunch of bananas in it. Well, in that real world scenario, a fulfillment center employee can take those bananas, move them to a different container, which is destined for that same customer, and update all portions of our system. That means that we can use fewer containers on the delivery vehicle. We can save space, potentially leading to even fewer vehicles on the road. And we also reduce the amount of cardboard and plastic packaging sent to customers' homes, allowing grocers to operate more sustainably and also more profitably. So We are always innovating, always looking for new ways to improve in this space. If you guys are interested in learning more, please reach out. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for that demonstration, Brian, and for the overview that you provided, Jason. Maybe as we start to queue up some questions from the audience, and maybe Annika, if I could ask for your help to just flag me if there are some coming through the chat. Just maybe the question I have is, as you sort of showcase this, and it's great that you're working with retailers small and large, is there sort of a target size that you're after with your e-grocery management solution, or how does it operate in the context of the target customers that you're going after?
Great, thanks, Bill. Maybe I can take that one, Brian. So, Bill, the solution really is flexible to adapt to both large and small, as we discussed. Now, what I will say is the key requirement for any retailer is they have to have the demand, or they have to be able to create the demand for e-grocery. In most places, that hasn't been an issue during the pandemic. So what we're witnessing is that many grocers now, the demand profile has changed completely, where previous they maybe thought, okay, in a few years or in 5 years, we'll have to have these types of technologies or dedicated fulfillment solutions. But COVID has really just accelerated the trend of e-grocery by about 5 years. So, we're expecting the total space globally to be worth, over 3 trillion by 2025. So the pace has just accelerated. And for us, the target market still is focusing in around the largest grocers, while also being able to meet some of the more nuanced needs of localized retailers as well.
Okay, and if you were to kind of select where you're focused from a market standpoint, Belgium is really interesting, and obviously there's tremendous demand in Europe. But where are you guys headed next?
Yeah, so there's lots of excitement around around the world. To be honest, we've recently hired PJ Stafford, who's my boss. He is our VP of Sales and Marketing based in New York City. So certainly the U.S. market is a large one for grocery, of course. But we're in discussions with retailers all over the world, and really the problems are similar, and then just the factors change. The traffic changes, the basket changes, the ability for a retailer to have real estate that's large in the outskirts of the Midwest might be different than if you're in Tokyo. So the variables change, but the good thing is that every retailer is going to require a foundational software solution, which is what we think the EGMS can support them with.
That's great. And maybe one further question before we see if there are some from the audience is, this sounds like a very comprehensive platform that you developed already in your EGMS solution. What's next? What are the next elements that you're trying to integrate into the overall platform?
I guess this one's for me, Jason, where we're going at. We are looking at a number of opportunities to expand into other ways that we can make grocers more efficient. So we're looking at supporting actually store operations and applications for in-store click and collect offerings, working with more routing and transportation partners in order to make that portion of that perfect delivery more environmentally friendly and sustainable. And other technologies, which may even include some advanced high tech, such as robotics and augmented reality. The options in this space are great and exciting where we can go.
That's great. So maybe some of those new technologies to help with the picking and the optimization of how you pack things. That's tremendous. Okay, let's see. Annika, are there any questions from the audience?
Yes, Ferris. They have their hand up. If you wanted to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, thank you. The numbers that you had for the growth for the online groceries, is that just from major retailers like online Amazon or Save on Foods and Thrifties, or does that also include like the pre-planned meals like the HelloFresh and Chef's Plate and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ferris. We really have focused more around the grocery space. We didn't expand it outwards to like food delivery more broadly. Like, you know, if we were to include like the Uber Eats or the DoorDashes and restaurant food delivery, I think that number would actually be greater. But really, we've just tried to focus in and around the grocery business itself. And of course, we speak from experience with our own business at Spud.ca.
Great, thanks for that question, Ferris. Annika, any other questions we have from the audience?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Bryan and Jason for a fantastic presentation about the progress with their project and scaling safe food delivery systems. And we will be sharing a copy of their presentation and this recording with everybody that attended. So thanks so much for that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our second demonstration, which is so I'm joined by Colin Schmidt, who's with Wisebox Solutions, and this is I'm not to steal his thunder, but this is the other aspect of food delivery, which is the farm to fork aspects of how we can actually help with building robust local supply chains. So Colin, over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much, FoodX, for the presentation. When I learned that I was going to be in the second position, I was somewhat relieved that I would allow you guys to tell them why all of this is important, and you guys did an amazing job of that. So thanks for addressing the COVID part, and in order to save everyone from hearing that twice, I'll of course allow that to be obvious that the similarities are here between the solutions. So I'll start the screen share here then. Assuming it's going to actually do so. Okay, and with any luck, we should now be actually looking at the screen share. Okay, thank you. All right, so first things first, as we get into this, I want to really start off with some thank yous. Obviously, thank you, Bill, and the entire Canadian Digital Technology Supercluster. That's obviously why we're here today, but it honestly is a big part about why this project was able to grow up so quickly with your co-investment. So thank you for that. I also want to, of course, thank our parent company of Wisebox, Technologies. Raymond is here today, my mentor and coach, and that is highly valued as we launch this new division of Wisebox. And Jonathan, of course, as well, the CTO of the entire group of companies. Novix was one of the consortium members as well in this project. So Karen, thank you for everything that you guys have taught us in the delivery space. And thank you for your partnership in getting our food to our customers. D-Wave, thank you, Daniel, for joining us today. I'll talk a little bit more about D-Wave a little bit later in the presentation, so I won't jump too far ahead of myself. And Jason from the Alberta Chamber of Commerce, a great budding partnership there, and we're really excited about Alberta. And then there's a really interesting sort of afterthought to this project, where we ended up with Quantotech, the University of the Fraser Valley, and SEPCO all working together to get vertical farming at UFV in campus, actually working with students and selling the food that they've grown on DirectFood.store. So it's just a tremendous opportunity there, and love the way the collaboration happened. And of course, none of this would be possible without the 60+ farms who have joined us on this journey so far. Keep in mind that we started in August last year with 0. So this is something that has grown up really quickly, and we really appreciate the farms. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why are we even doing this in the first place? Like, why did we take this approach to food delivery? And you'll quickly realize that what we're doing, of course, is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum of what FoodX is doing. So really, we're all about, in the iOpen technology group of companies, about healthy people, healthy planet, healthy economy. So as we took this perspective and looked at how would we accomplish this, we wanted to have a truly farm-to-table marketplace. And the way we would do that is we would actually deliver the food directly from the farms and the vendors to the consumers, the restaurants, the charities, without all of the other stops, okay? And the reason we wanted to take this approach working backwards was really the lowest food miles was direct food, the freshest food was direct food, and the most profitable food for the farmer was direct food. How we handle this, of course, has to start off with innovation, which is what this technology supercluster project is all about. And the first key of this ingredient is the many-to-many e-commerce solution, where we have all of these farmers in the marketplace, and you're able to browse the food together, add those things to your cart from maybe 5 or 6 different farms, and check out all in one fell swoop. But you're going to get a separate credit card charge and a separate receipt from each of those farms. And they actually get paid directly. They get the money deposited into their own merchant account. So that's really powerful, especially when you can do that in a PCI compliant way. The next thing then is the many-to-many delivery that I'm going to jump on into a lot more detail here later in the presentation. And then from there, the traceability is critical. We want to make it really clear that we have this direct connection. We want to be able to have restaurants have a map of, hey, here's where the food came from on the menu, and those sorts of things. Everything is either direct or if it's not able to be local, which is our first and foremost priority, then we do plug the gaps with certified organic so that we can keep that traceability aspect. That innovation then leads into empowerment, where we provide the education, the tools, and critically the support as well for the farmers to succeed in this marketplace, which then builds the trust. We can grow the community, and that helps us accomplish our goals. So the farms and vendors, as I mentioned, they put their products into this marketplace. The consumers, of course, it's our responsibility to bring them to the table, quite literally, as well as the restaurants and the meal services. They get to buy at discounted prices, of course, that the farmers have control over here. We're not fixing the pricing or setting the pricing. They're in charge of their own pricing, including what they want to give as a discount. But the charities are guaranteed to get the same rate that the restaurants do on the discount. So having a quick look at the application itself, here's just a typical page of a typical product. Winner's Beef has, of course, been one of our vendors with us almost from the beginning, and has certainly done very well. Of course, we're going to highlight other products that are available from them, but the discoverability aspect is really important. So when you get to the you may also like area, this is something where we're giving equal opportunity to every vendor. We're trying to rise everybody up, and this isn't something where we're running algorithms to indicate that, hey, that we're going to promote only the best sellers, and if you don't get the sales, you don't get to the top, and if you're not at the top, you don't get the sales, that sort of thing. So we're giving equal opportunity to every farm here. The customer reviews, of course, are a critical component, but we also then carry on that idea in our bundles. So we group together best sellers with those who are up and coming. And this allows, again, to raise up those smaller vendors' profile in order to give them the opportunity to be discovered as people are shopping for those best sellers. Here's just a few quotes from our vendors so far here. Goat's Pride Dairy loves the fact that not only do we connect them, but we also introduce the people behind the food. If you look at some of the videos and the farm stories and stuff we do, you're actually introduced to the farms, because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about the farms. You're buying directly from the farms, not from us. DirectFood.store, as a company, we don't actually sell any food, okay? With the egg store, DFS noted that it has helped us to continue to sell our products during these challenging times, of course, referring to COVID, of course. The setup was simple and easy. And then BC Buzz noting that being part of the DFS network was a no-brainer for us. And of course, she's very keen to note that the network effect of what we're doing here. So I'm going to just share a little bit now about the many-to-many delivery model here. And this is overly simplistic here in order to help you understand what we're doing. But this, of course, is not an example of an optimized solution. I just want to make it very clear that we are literally going around with many drivers picking up the food from many different vendors. And then we're going to be going to each of the drop-off points the same day that we picked it up and dropping off those orders. So each customer has only one delivery, and they're promised a guaranteed delivery window, just like the vendors have guaranteed pickup windows for that food to be picked up and dropped off. So as a consumer, you can shop in one marketplace and have all of your food that's being picked up together, and it's going to all arrive together at your doorstep. We also, of course, are working here to solve the optimization here with D-Wave. So we have worked very closely with D-Wave during this project on scaling the many-to-many delivery system. And the results of that work have been conclusively positive and is posed to revolutionize the industry. So thank you again to D-Wave for your help on this project. We have to note that in the Amazon era, people expect free delivery. So not only do we expect free delivery, we have no minimum order size as well, which is something that we're able to offer people as a result of this technology. It's also critical for discoverability. We have vendors who will send their customers to us to purchase from DirectFood.store, but the customer showed up on the site expecting only to purchase one item, which wouldn't necessarily hit most stores' minimum delivery. So that's going to then, of course, allow the customer to have a great experience and then return later without the minimum order being a barrier. So thank you. I'm going to leave it there for now, and we'll open up the floor for any questions.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Colin. And you know, I maybe I can start some questions while we wait for the audience to queue up. But I want to touch a little bit on what the uniqueness of this approach is. So you talked a little bit about optimization, you know, led by D-Wave's technology. Can you kind of describe how you're taking this whole concept of food marketplaces to another level?
Sure. So I'd like to just really say that the concept of this many-to-many delivery is really the empowering aspect of this. When you're able to have your food delivered to you on 3 days a week, as you can choose from Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and the experience is your food all came together, but it came direct from that source. Like we have notes written on the packaging from the farmers of these eggs were laid this morning, right? That's empowering. And it's something that other distribution methods aren't able to accomplish. So we do see this really as a bit of a revolution. It's going to be a new way of getting farm to table working the way that is the most optimized. Because at the end of the day, it's actually less food miles here to have our delivery network take care of the problem than you as an individual drive to each of those farms and pick it up yourself.
It's really interesting how you've grown from no farmers to 60 farmers in the span of under the last year or so. Where do you see it going next? How do you go about expanding the network, and how's the commercialization path going to unfold?
Yeah, thank you. Boots on the ground partners is really important. So South Carolina Agriculture Department, for example, has been tremendously supportive, and we really do thank them for their support as we've launched in the South Carolina region based in Charleston. But those types of partnerships are critical as we launch across North America. I mentioned the Alberta Chamber of Commerce, of course, earlier. So we are, of course, working closely with the St. Albert farmers market environment there. We have the St. Albert Chamber is the one who's leading that initiative. The St. Albert Farmers Market in that region in general has the largest farmers market in all of Western Canada. And that's just outside of Edmonton, as you may know. So there's a really good community there already, and working through the chambers, of course, we're in the process of onboarding those farms.
Okay. And in order to kind of establish a footprint in an area like South Carolina or Alberta, is there sort of a geographic shape or scope that you need to arrive at, or, you know, how do you go about determining whether it makes sense for you to be there?
Yeah, excellent question. Needless to say that we are regionally local, right? So we're going to have many regions, but each region has a maximum size in order for the delivery mechanics to work. So basically in this first region here, we're talking Chilliwack through Vancouver. And as you look at other regions, it's really about the drive time, the hours. So less densely populated areas where you just have less traffic can be a larger actual geographic scope. So what really matters is the drive times within the region.
Got it. Super interesting. Let's see if we have any questions. Annika, do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any at the moment.
It was such a compelling presentation that I think you've got everybody gobsmacked and quiet. Maybe I'll ask one final question, and then we'll turn it to the rapid fire. So and see if anyone else has any further questions to this. So Colin, as you kind of look ahead and the opportunity ahead, for this product and for the company, what kind of partners are you ideally looking for?
Thank you. So we're interested in seeing how else this technology can be applied. So this technology has grown up in one of the more difficult things to deliver, which is food, but that does not mean it can't be used to deliver other things as well.
Okay, well, that's great to know, because that whole concept of regional, local, and sort of optimizing with multiple players, many to many, is, I'm sure, it's a significant kind of step forward for all sorts of products. So thanks for that presentation. One last try. Any questions, Annika, that have come through the chat?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the presentations, the presenters today from FoodX and from and from Wisebox. And now maybe we can move to the community sort of portion of the demo day. So this rapid fire area is a chance for us to kind of update each other on what's going on. If you have projects or initiatives or ideas, or just developments in your company that you wanted to share. So Annika, if I could get you to kind of keep an eye on the chat box and see if anyone raises their hand. There's a raise hand function, or if you pop yourself on screen, we'll see you there and you can just wave and I'll be happy to kind of call upon you. So anyone have any updates for the community at large? Okay, somebody's got to have air conditioners for sale. Probably there's an opportunity to sell them today, probably at a 50% discounted rate. No, I'm totally kidding. Anyone? Okay, so it is probably appropriate then that we might call this event to a close then, give everybody a chance to kind of have a bit of a break. Again, I want to thank the presenters for today's fantastic demos, and we'll be sending out information after the fact along with contacts in case you're a partner that's seeking to work with these folks to expand out what they're doing. I'm sure they'd be very open to the whole concept. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to Annika, Leanne, and Denver for helping to produce this, and we'll see all of you at our next demo day. All the best.
Thanks.
All good.
Stop the recording.